The air inside the Fresh Mart store was still, almost unnaturally quiet for a Tuesday morning. Outside, the sky was a dull sheet of gray, and the wind had a cold bite that hinted at the tail end of winter. The automatic doors slid open with a mechanical sigh, letting in the cold gust and a man who looked like he didn't belong. Dressed in a faded hoodie, jeans that had clearly seen better days, and sneakers worn thin at the soles, he might have passed for someone down on his luck, or perhaps a new hire uncertain of his first day. No one paid him much attention. And that was exactly how he wanted it. Michael Dawes took a slow step into the store, eyes flicking from the neatly stacked produce displays to the flickering fluorescent lights above. This was store number 47 of the Fresh Mart chain. One of over 300 locations. But this one had caught his attention, not for profit margins or performance metrics, but for something far more human. Complaints, letters, anonymous messages, whispers of poor management, disrespect, discrimination, words that had struck a nerve in the founder of a company that was built on the idea that everyone, no matter where they came from, deserved dignity and a second chance. Michael wasn't here as the CEO today. There were no cameras, no PR teams, no secret TV shows. Just him, in disguise, walking into his own store like any other customer. He had even given himself a fake employee ID badge, Mike D, new trainee. He hadn't taken more than 10 steps past the bakery aisle when he heard it. Soft, barely audible over the humming refrigerators. A quiet sniffle, followed by the sound of someone trying very hard not to cry. It wasn't the usual noise of customers or someone reacting to onion fumes. This was something else, something raw. He paused near the display of discounted cereal boxes and traced the sound. It was coming from the front registers. More precisely, from behind one of them. Register 4. There, crouched low behind the counter, was a young woman in a green Fresh Mart uniform. Her back was to him, but he could see her shoulders trembling slightly. Her hands covered her face as she tried to muffle the sounds. A crumpled tissue sat limp in her lap. Her name tag, slightly tilted, read, Tiana. Michael approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. The closer he got, the more he could see how deeply hurt she was. This wasn't the quiet frustration of a bad day, it was the kind of sadness that came from being chipped away at slowly, piece by piece, over time. "Hey, you okay?" he asked softly. She jerked upright, wiping at her eyes quickly, trying to mask the redness. Her face was beautiful but tired, with eyes that had seen far more than someone her age should have. She forced a smile, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm fine," she said, voice shaky. "Just allergies." Michael nodded, but he wasn't convinced. "Sure, I get those too. Hits you right behind the eyes, huh?" Tiana chuckled once, but it faded just as quickly. She turned away and began organizing some receipts, clearly trying to put up a wall. Before Michael could say anything else, a sharp voice cut through the air like a knife. "Tiana." He turned. A woman in her late 40s stomped toward them, heels clacking against the tiled floor. Her face was taut with irritation. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tight it looked painful. She wore the manager badge with the smugness of a dictator. "Why aren't you at your station?" she barked. "I told you 10 minutes ago to clean up aisle 6. What are you doing sitting here crying again?" I was just taking a minute, Miss Paula." "I'm sorry," Tiana said quickly, head bowed. Miss Paula sneered. "This is a store, not a therapy office. You think customers want to see a crying cashier? You think that looks professional?" Michael's jaw clenched. He didn't say anything yet, just watched. Observed. "And don't give me that allergy nonsense again," Paula snapped. "I'm not in the mood. If you want to cry, do it on your own time. You're lucky we haven't replaced you yet." And with that, she turned and walked away, muttering under her breath. Tiana didn't say a word. She didn't move for a second. Just sat there, the weight of those words pressing on her like a ton of bricks. Michael could see her shoulders tense as she took in a deep breath, then stood and straightened her vest. "I'm okay," she said softly, more to herself than to him. Michael waited a beat before speaking. "Is that how she always talks to you?" Tiana didn't answer at first. Then, after a pause, she said, "I'm used to it." "That doesn't make it okay." Tiana looked at him carefully, searching his face. There was something about the way he spoke, not like a coworker, not like a stranger, but like someone who saw her. She hesitated, then whispered, "It's not just her. It's most of them. Not all. But enough to make it hard." Michael nodded slowly, encouraging her to continue. "I work every weekend. I come in early. I stay late. I cover when people don't show. I smile for customers, even when they're rude. But it's never enough. They treat me like I'm invisible. Or worse, like I'm in the way. Like I'm some charity case." "You're not," Michael said firmly. She laughed, bitterly this time. "That's kind of you. But you don't know what it's like. To need a job so badly that you'll take anything, even disrespect. My brother, he's sick. Needs dialysis. We lost our mom 3 years ago. I'm the only one working. I had to drop out of college. Almost had my finance degree. But someone messed with a test score and blamed me. Got suspended. No appeal. Just a black mark and a door slammed shut." Michael felt a pang of guilt shoot through his chest. How many times had he stood in front of podiums and said Fresh Mart gave people second chances? But here, in the very halls of his business, a young woman was being slowly broken by the system he created. "How long have you been here?" he asked. 16 months. And not once have I been promoted. Not once have I had a real conversation with a manager that didn't involve me getting yelled at. I asked about moving to customer service or the finance desk, even offered to help train new hires. Nothing." Michael looked around. A few customers passed by. One cashier watched them quietly but quickly turned away when their eyes met. "It's like no one cares," she said, barely above a whisper. "And I try to stay hopeful. I do. But it's hard." Michael stared at her, and something shifted in him. Not as a CEO. Not even as a businessman. But as a human being. "You deserve better," he said gently. Tiana wiped her eyes again and gave a short nod. "I should get to aisle 6 before she comes back." She began to walk away, but Michael stopped her. "What's your last name?" She blinked. "Why?" "Just curious." "Brooks. Tiana Brooks." He smiled. "Thank you for telling me the truth, Tiana Brooks." She looked at him strangely, like something didn't quite add up, then slowly walked away. Michael stood there for a long time. The hum of the refrigerators. The muted announcements from the PA system. The soft squeak of cart wheels. It all felt distant, muffled under the weight of what he had just witnessed. He moved toward the back of the store, where the employee lounge and manager's office were located. He needed to see the security tapes. Talk to the team. Observe more. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't know yet, was that things were about to get worse. Much worse. Because the true rot wasn't just a rude supervisor. It was in the unspoken rules. In the cover-ups. In the favoritism. In the way certain employees were silenced or punished for speaking out. And in that very back office, on a computer tucked beneath a stack of invoices and schedules, there were emails that would confirm Michael's worst fears. Emails that would show that Tiana had reported harassment more than once. That her requests for reassignment were ignored. That her schedule was manipulated as punishment. That her file had been marked, "Do not promote," by someone who never even met her. Michael hadn't come in looking for a hero. But he had just found one. And she had been hiding in plain sight, behind register 4, trying not to cry. Michael walked through the sliding doors of the employee entrance, flashing the fake badge clipped to his shirt collar. No one gave him a second glance. A man in a janitor's uniform passed him with a nod. A stock boy, probably no older than 17, leaned against a wall near the break room, texting furiously. No one seemed to be working with urgency or pride. The back area of the store, the engine room, as corporate liked to call it, was dimmer and smelled faintly of cleaning supplies and sweat. A sharp contrast from the polished, customer-facing aisles in the front. Michael had always known this side of the business existed. He had walked it in the early years, when he opened the first store himself. Back then, he would clean the floors, stack the shelves, run the register, and even sleep in his office when the hours got too long. But that was years ago. Somewhere along the way, between shareholder meetings and expansion strategies, he had lost touch with this part of the company. The part that mattered the most. The people. He walked past the break room where two employees were huddled together, speaking in hushed voices. As he passed, one of them glanced up and stopped talking. Michael caught a fragment of the conversation, something about that girl up front again, but didn't pause. He turned down a short hallway and stopped at a plain wooden door with a nameplate that read, Store Manager, Paula Richardson. He knocked. A voice from inside replied, Yeah. Michael pushed the door open. Paula was at her desk, typing something on her computer. The office was cluttered with boxes of paperwork, schedules pinned to corkboards, and a desk covered in half-empty coffee cups. A strong scent of perfume and old paper hung in the air. Can I help you? Paula asked, barely looking up. Michael walked in casually. Yeah, sorry, I'm new here. Mike D. They asked me to bring these shift logs to you. He held up a small folder, one he'd picked up on his way from the HR coordinator's desk earlier. Oh, just leave them on the desk, she said, her tone brisk. She didn't even make eye contact. Michael's gaze traveled across her screen. Emails. Most open, some minimized. He caught a few subject lines that made his stomach turn. Performance issues, T. Brooks, employee flag, insubordination, and one that read, termination options. He placed the folder down slowly. Busy day. Paula scoffed. Always. Some people think this job runs itself. Between incompetent hires and whiny staff, it's like babysitting a bunch of toddlers. He pretended to laugh. That bad, huh? You have no idea, Paula muttered. Like that cashier out front. Always crying about something. I've got zero tolerance for emotional baggage at work. I told corporate we need to clean house, but they never listen until it becomes a lawsuit. And by then, guess who takes the fall? Me. Michael stood still for a moment. He could feel the heat building in his chest. His fists clenched at his sides, but he kept his tone calm. Isn't she the one who's been here over a year? Too long, if you ask me. Paula shrugged, clicking something on her screen. She's got this victim complex. Thinks being black and poor makes her special. I've seen it before. Cries when you ask her to do something simple. And don't even get me started on how she talks back sometimes. The attitude, the entitlement. Michael took a step closer. Did she ever report anything to you? Disrespect from customers? Harassment? That kind of thing? Paula paused and gave him a glance, a suspicious one. Why are you asking? Just wondering what kind of place I'm walking into. Well, she said, waving her hand dismissively, if you keep your head down and do your job, you'll be fine. Just don't end up like her. Always playing the victim card. These kinds of employees don't last. She won't be around much longer anyway. Michael gave a tight nod and walked out. He didn't trust himself to speak again without the truth exploding from his mouth. He made his way down the hall to the back office room that held the security footage system. It wasn't locked. He stepped in, sat at the desk, and pulled the monitor toward him. With years of experience behind him, Michael quickly navigated the security program. He searched the dates and times Tiana mentioned. The complaints. The missed promotions. He watched hours of footage. There she was, helping elderly customers carry groceries to their cars. Smiling through exhausting double shifts. Covering when others were late or didn't show. And then he saw more. Her flinching when Paula approached. Her being barked at in front of customers. One video showed her wiping away tears after a particularly nasty exchange, only for Paula to shove a cart into her hands a minute later. But then came something worse. Footage from the break room 2 weeks ago. Tiana sat alone at a table, eating lunch. A group of 3 employees entered. One of them dumped their drink right next to her tray, splashing her food. They laughed. One muttered, "Oops." Tiana looked up, stunned, then quietly gathered her things and left. The others laughed louder. Michael leaned back, disgusted. He searched for the report logs in the system. Tiana had submitted at least 4 formal complaints. Every one of them had been marked, unsubstantiated, and closed by Paula. His hands trembled slightly as he took out his phone and began taking pictures. Evidence. He walked out of the room and made his way to the break room. It was nearly lunchtime. A few employees sat at the tables, scrolling their phones or chatting. Paula wasn't there. He stepped inside and took a breath. "Hey, I'm Mike, new trainee." One of them nodded. A stalker with tattoos up his arms looked up and grunted. "I wanted to ask you something. About Tiana, the cashier." The room went quiet. "She's cool," said a young woman in a deli apron. "She works hard. Doesn't say much. Keeps to herself mostly. She's quiet because of what people do to her," muttered the tattooed guy. "You seen how Paula talks to her?" Michael nodded. "I have." "Does that happen a lot?" "Too much," he said. "But no one says anything. Paula's tight with regional. We speak up, we lose ours. I got a kid, man. I can't risk it." Michael turned to the girl. "You ever see her being bullied?" She looked down. "Yeah, and it's not just Paula. Some of the others here think she's soft. They mess with her, push her buttons. The girl's been trying to get transferred to another department for months. Keeps getting blocked." Michael thanked them and walked away. He had heard enough. He stepped outside the building and pulled out his phone. Dialed his assistant, Laura. "Laura," he said, his voice cold and clipped. "I need the head of HR on a Zoom call in 1 hour. Along with regional management, store 47, and get the legal team ready. I'm authorizing an immediate investigation into employee treatment at this location. Effective now." He paused. "And Laura." "Yes, sir. Clear my schedule for the week. I'm staying here. I'm not leaving until this place is cleaned out from the roots." He hung up. Then, he walked back into the store. He found Tiana in aisle 6, restocking cans of soup. Her face was blank, her movements mechanical. "Tiana," he said gently. She turned. "Oh, hi." Michael reached into his pocket and pulled out his badge. Not the fake one, the real one. It gleamed in the fluorescent light. "Michael Dawes," he said. "CEO of Fresh Mart." Tiana blinked, confused. She looked at the badge, then at his face. He nodded. "I came undercover. To see what was happening in my stores. I didn't expect to find what I found. And I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner." Her eyes widened. "You're the CEO." "Yes. And I just want you to know, everything is going to change. Starting today." She stared at him, unable to speak. "You've been through hell," he said, voice steady. "And you've handled it with more grace and strength than most people could. But it ends now. I've seen the footage. Read the emails. I know what's been done to you. And to others. That's over." Tiana swallowed hard, her hands shaking slightly. "I don't know what to say." Michael smiled softly. "You don't have to say anything. Just know I believe you. And I've got your back." He turned and walked away, already dialing again. Back in the office, he drafted immediate termination papers for Paula. Sent them with evidence to our. He scheduled a visit from the internal audit team. He approved a new training program for leadership accountability. And he assigned Tiana to a new role, assistant to the regional HR manager, effective immediately, with full pay and benefits. She didn't find out until later that day. When she did, she cried again. But this time, it wasn't from pain. It was the first time in a long time anyone had truly seen her, and done something about it. The story wasn't over yet. But the tide had turned.